What's happening, everyone? Happy Monday, January 8th. Randomly enough, in exactly 1 month, Duke will be playing North Carolina at UNC Chapel Cheat. UNC Chapel Cheat. I like that. Um, Definitely plenty of kinks for Duke to work out until then, and there's definitely a lot of tough games in between then, notably Miami and Virginia. Of course, Duke was upset this weekend by NC State. We traveled to the game to witness the underperforming Blue Devils live. So, more on that in a minute. First thing is, Duke fell to number 7 in the polls. So, a lot of teams lost. I haven't really looked too far into it. Don't have that kind of time. But number 7, I guess they deserve to be number 7 or even lower after losing to Boston College and then, beating Florida State, which is really tough, and then losing to NC State. So the polls are the polls. I don't really give one fuck what they're ranked because it's a number and it's just what a group of people think. So fuck it. But that's that. Virginia's up to number 3 now after whooping UNC's ass. And I'm not sure what else because I don't have it pulled up. So, I guess the narrative is, what the fuck is wrong with Duke? A team that was supposed to be extremely deep this year, looked like it was going to be extremely deep. All of a sudden, Coach K and everybody else we're extremely thin and we can't hit a damn jump shot to save our life, can't defend somebody to save our life. That number 12 for NC State, he just did a spin move every single play, and it worked every single play. So there's a ton to work on. It seems like you can tell that Carter Jr. and Bagley just don't want to foul out, and it's suffering. But also the guards, it's like they can't stay in front of everybody or anybody, and it just looks like they don't want to, or they've never tried, they never had to try. I don't know what it is. I'm not a coach, never will be, because I would probably break a bunch of shit. But yeah, and it doesn't really help that when Coach K says I need to rely on Alex O'Connell more than I did usually, and then he got literally 1 minute of playing time in a game where Duke did not look good at all, not even close to mediocre, and nobody could hit a jump shot, and nobody was playing good defense. So tell me why O'Connell couldn't grab 7 minutes. Again, I don't know. And Bolden was out. He will also be out against Pittsburgh on Wednesday. That was announced earlier, so take that for what it's worth. Bolden won't be given his usual 7 minutes off the bench, I guess. But that just thins out the quote-unquote already thin bench. And if O'Connell only gets 1 minute, then you're talking about no bench, basically, because, what is Vrankovic's going to get, a few minutes? And, who else is there? Goldwire, he doesn't go to him either. So that's not something I'm going to sit here and act like I'm an expert on, because that's within the team. Same thing with Jordan Tucker transferring. There's more to that. It's within the team. He obviously wasn't happy, and there was a lot more to it. So, you really can't come out and say that you knew exactly what it is and that it's the player's fault, it's Coach K's fault, it's both. You can't say anything you don't know, and I don't know. So, but it is a narrative that has been the case for more than 1 year. It was the same thing last year. In the tournament, they were tired, got their ass kicked, thin bench, but they had a bench. He just didn't really go to it as much as he should have. So, I don't know. Narrative, what the fuck is up with Duke? They show flashes of insane greatness where you're like, this is the most raw, talented team ever. They're finally putting it together on both ends of the floor. Oh, my God. I'm so happy to be a Duke fan. Sights, motherfucker, whatever else. And then they get beat by Boston College. Boston College played one hell of a game, but Duke should have easily won anyways. And then, who'd they play? Evansville or some shit? Beat the hell out of Evansville. Obviously, that's a nobody, but hold them to 40 points and really lock in and show that you have that in you. And that's a home game, of course. I mean, if they're going to lock in and shoot well and everything, it's going to be a home game, of course. But just because there's a road game, that can't immediately make you less than half a good as team as you are at home. Good teams that win championships, that's not how they roll. It's not going to work. Like, that's not going to cut it. Then play Florida State again at home. Back and forth game and some mistakes and shit like that, but they played a good game and they pulled it out in the end, and it was thanks to unstoppable Marvin Bagley, which has been the case every game of the year, and then one hell of a second half by Duval. So, okay. Then you go to State, favored to win, should win. State has had some decent wins, but also got whipped by some absolute trash teams. They have no big-name players. What's his name, Uverstein or something, he's been playing good. And I guess number 12, I don't know his name either. I was at the game, so it's a lot harder to pay attention to the details when you're live at the game because there's just so much shit going on. And it's a lot different when you're on the TV. It's focused on one thing and one thing only, the game, the live play. And I really, kind of focus on what's happening. I mean, I could tell what wasn't happening, which was defense and shot making and execution. So I noticed that much. And, look decent at first, thinking, well, they're a second half team. They'll come into it and they'll come out firing and put this away or something of relevant to that. And they didn't. They came out and looked kind of worse than they did in the first half, talking about Duke. And towards the end of the game, a couple turnovers, still having a little fight. Bagley still fighting. Everyone's still kind of fighting. But then you give up a few mid-range jump shots. And they were making tough shots also. You got to credit NC State for that. And the crowd was fueling it too. They were hostile. But you give up a few rebounds on the offensive end or defensive end. Offensive rebounds for NC State, which should never happen with any team. You're going to get a few lucky offensive rebounds, but other than that, it shouldn't happen against Duke. And then, they make 2 threes and then another 3 and get fouled, so it's a 4-point play, and that basically sealed it up. And that crowd was extremely happy about it. If you ever get a chance to beat Duke, especially if you're live at the game on your home floor and this doesn't happen often, there's nothing better for a team against Duke than that. It wasn't that fun for me at that moment because I was there and everybody was obnoxious, so it in turn made me obnoxious and everyone I was with obnoxious, but it was cool. It was still had a blast, but you just expect more from this team because you've seen more from this team. Certain people's shot are going to go cold. Certain people are going to hit slumps. All sorts of things like that, but it's Grayson Allen you don't really know what's going on with him. He might drop 40 and look like player of the year, or he honestly might score 3 points and you are not even sure if he played. Is that because the system and no one finding their real role yet and executing the way that they're supposed to? Is that because he's in a slump? Is that because he's injured? Is that because the teammates around him he's kind of just disappearing in the act or in the crowd? I don't have a fucking clue. If you do, tweet me. Let me know what you think. But I don't know. Really could have used him Saturday. But it happened, and there was plenty of reasons why. I'm not really going to go into great detail about the reasons, but, another huge game from Bagley. He had 31 and 10, 14 shots. He shot some free throws too, of course. 9 for 11 from the free throw line. So a lot of those were in crunch time as well. Seeing some improvement at the line lately, and I like that a lot because it's going to matter at some point. So I really like 9 for 11. Carter Jr., 5 for 5 from the line. I like that a lot too. Carter Jr. only had 6 shots. Bagley had 14, of course. So many he got fouled on. But he could have took even more. If Duval's taking 14 shots, I want Bagley to take 37 shots. Simple as that. He had 0 assists. So if he's not taking shots, he should be kicking it out for an open shot because the defense is collapsing on him. Either they didn't collapse on him or people weren't knocking down shots. I know for a fact nobody was knocking down shots. So Trent was cold, but don't lose confidence. Duval, 8 for 14. He had 8 turnovers. That is not good for a team that is struggling on the road. And then Allen, 8 points. He took 9 shots, 3 for 9, played 39 minutes. I mean, it's just the starters are playing so many minutes. You're telling me you can't grab 3 minutes here, 3 minutes there, 2 minutes? I mean, Trent played 38. Allen played 39. Bagley played 38. O'Connell played 2 minutes. And one of those minutes was at the end of the game when Coach threw in the towel. So, I don't know. Delorier had 15 minutes. He did some good things. He fouled a lot also. Not his best. And then Vrant got 4 minutes. So, that's just kind of a recap. I don't really know what to make of it. We're going to have to see this road game against Pittsburgh, which Duke should absolutely 100% win. We're going to have to see how they show out there. And if they do great, this was a fluke and Duke's back on track. And then we'll just have to see after that. If they play terrible and it's a close game or for some reason they lose, then there's going to be a lot more headlines and people trying to make a name off themselves because Duke is losing. I saw one person put them at 15 or 16. What is it, Seth Davis or something? He's a fucking idiot. He just wants attention so bad. He wants attention so bad that he has to do stuff that's not logical at all to try to get attention. And that's kind of what you see in media and sports and news. People with stupid-ass takes wanting attention. And that's what I see in him, so fuck him. Pitt's last 3 games, they've been thrashed every game, pretty much. Miami, they barely beat Towson? I don't have a clue, whatever. They barely beat Towson or Tosin. I don't know who that is. 63-59. Then beat by Miami, beat by Louisville, and beat by Virginia Tech. All by more than 10 points. And Pittsburgh is a pretty low-scoring team overall. Actually, very low-scoring. So, it should be, one of those guaranteed Duke wins. Matchup predictor on ESPN has them 95% to a 5% chance for Pittsburgh. But if you look at it from a devil's advocate side, Duke looked horrible against NC State. And this is another ACC away game. So another road game for Duke in the ACC. I think they've lost 4 in a row. Road ACC games, I think. I think that's dating back to last year, of course. But I'm going to go ahead and say that Duke will win this game. It's just the fact of how good do they look? Did they scrape away with it? Did they win, but kind of trash, played like trash at times that could have done a lot better? There's always going to be room for improvement, but sometimes they look like the best team in the nation. And sometimes they almost look like they could be out of the top 25 for certain stretches of games. So what are we going to see? And Wednesday at 7 o'clock on ESPN2, you'll find out. I really like Wednesday games at 7 o'clock. I think that's my favorite time for a game. And also, I guess Saturday night. Those are my favorite times. And Monday when there's nothing going on. But whenever there's a game on, I'm watching it, so I don't really care. That's about it, though. I mean, we just have to see how Duke pans out against Pitt, because after that, it's Wake Forest at Duke. And then after that, on the 15th, they have to travel to Miami. So, I mean, the way you look at it is it's 2 games where you're highly favored to win, but you were highly favored to win against NC State. But you're still highly favored to win. One's an away game, one's a home game, and you really need to figure some shit out in these 2 games, because going up to Miami, that's no joke. We've seen Duke get their ass kicked there before, plenty of times, and they just beat Florida State, and Miami's not really fucking around this year, so we'll see how that goes. I'm kind of worried about that game right now, if I'm just being honest. Miami has a tough game against Clemson 2 days before Duke, so that might help the Duke game a little bit, help Duke out a little bit. Wow, Clemson's 14-1 this year? I didn't know that. That's kind of impressive. They beat Louisville, NC State, something that we didn't do. They beat Florida, something we did do. And they beat Ohio State. That's pretty crazy. Clemson's 14-1. Wonder if that'll help aid Zion Williamson to choose them, which he decides on, the 20th? So about 12 days out of Zion Williamson's decision. Saw those photos of him in a Duke jersey. Not looking too far into that. They do certain little photo shoots. Doesn't mean they always go where they took a photo in a jersey at. Same thing happened with Kevin Knox at Missouri, I think. Of course, he went to Kentucky. Was guaranteed to Duke. Went to Kentucky. Took a photo in a Missouri jersey. So, stranger things have happened. Some say they're photoshopped. I don't really think they're photoshopped, but they're on my Twitter if you haven't seen them. And he'll be deciding on the 20th. I feel like he's going to Kentucky or Clemson, but that's just me. Seems like the most likely places he would go. So, yeah. And one more thing on the State game. They do always give Duke a hard time, it seems like, whether it be at Duke or at State in the past years. I said it on the previous podcast that I remember all the C.J. Leslie games and Cat Barber, who was at Lorenzo Brown, and, of course, Dennis Smith last year. It's always a tough game, no matter what their ranking is. It always just seems like Duke struggles. So that trend continued on Saturday, and it was something that I just didn't think was going to happen. And Duke doesn't get to play them again this year unless they meet in the ACC tournament. So that's another little side note to the whole NC State upset. Other than that, I mean, it's just going to have to see how Duke plays out. I know I just said that a ton of times, but they have a lot to work on, and I just hope they work on it. It's the amount of talent they have this year. I really don't want this year to be a wash in the sense of, accomplishing nothing in the ACC. They have a favorable ACC schedule this year. It's more than favorable compared to years past. So a regular season ACC title was favorable for Duke this year. ACC tournament title, another thing that they have a great chance to win. That's no easy task no matter who you have on your team. But there's a good chance that they could compete for that. And then the ultimate goal is a NCAA championship. How many more years is Coach K going to coach? I'm not jumping to conclusions or anything. I know he said he's got a good 5 years left in him, maybe more, because he's like a robot and he doesn't really age. He just gets a few surgeries here and there and he's good as new. But at that state game, he really looked kind of like the rest of the team. He kind of looked sleepy. Jeff Capel was getting up, jumping around, screaming. And Coach K was just kind of sitting back, and I know he's the wise guy and he's the GOAT and he's, plays more smart, but last year and the year before I seen him jumping up and really getting hype whenever the team needed it most. And I don't pay attention to that as much, but I haven't really seen that too much this year. I don't know, maybe I don't pay a lot of attention, but I definitely didn't see it at State this Saturday. So that's just another thing of how long is he going to coach? Great roster this year, and there's a lot to work on. The outside shot has been more of an issue than I thought that it would, but not getting it to Bagley enough and fast enough isn't helping anything. Yeah, he puts up 31 and 10. Yeah, he puts up 30 and 20, whatever it is, but it just seems like they haven't found their true identity on offense or defense at times. When the three-point shot is falling, a lot changes because that's like your way out. Oh, just throw up a three. And even when it's not falling, yeah, just get the rebound because we have these monsters rebounding. But it just didn't work out at State this weekend. But that's about it for this. We did go to the game, like I said, had a blast. Took myself, Presley, Matt, and Jordan, 4 Duke fans. And then we took Rachel, who is an NC State fan. And then we took my friend Alex, who is a UNC Chapel Cheat fan. He just wanted to go. He really had no horse in the race. UNC got their ass whooped, and they also got beat by Wofford. So, he can't really say too much, even though he made sure he said enough. He confidently said State by 8 when we were walking into the arena. I was guaranteeing that he was just saying that on hopes and dreams, but it panned out for him. And that group of fan base, different people being fans of different teams, all within North Carolina, playing each other, and it really made for a fun time. After Duke lost and everybody stormed the court, which I think storming the court is lame because Duke doesn't do it and they have no reason to. But, to sound like a grandpa is not safe. If some dude runs out there and punches Grayson Allen in the face, that's because they were allowed to storm the court. So, and it's going to be hard to find out who did it, and all this shit is going to happen. So, that's one reason why I don't really like it. Another is because it never happens, Duke storming the court, because they have no reason to. It's always people storming the court on Duke, which obviously I fucking hate. So, that's another reason why I hate it. But us 6 going to the game and afterwards leaving the game, just being obnoxiously sarcastic and funny and trying to deal with the loss in our own ways, or for other people's sake, dealing with the win in their own happy ways. We're trying to find the truck on the way out. We got lost. We came back across the arena just as the storm the court people are coming out of the arena going crazy. I was like, oh, shit. It's like the worst scenario possible. And I put a little clip up. It's like a 15-minute video on our YouTube of that whole scenario. So if you're a Duke fan, you could kind of feel my pain. If you check that out, it might be, I don't know how to translate. It might be one of those you had to be there moments, where it might be kind of funny because you can kind of relate. You know, we had to deal with a few obnoxious State fans. I think we were obnoxious ourselves. My friend Alex, he's a UNC fan, but I think he was a State fan, of course. He's just walking around yelling, "The State way! The State way, baby!" Like, it couldn't have been worse. But, I mean, at the end of the day, they got beat by Wofford, so shut the fuck up on that. And then we met up with a few other Duke fans. Just a bunch of funny things happened, and that's on our YouTube if you want to check that out. Note to everyone, I don't think I'm that obnoxious all the time. Or anybody else that was with me, I don't think they're that obnoxious all the time. I think we were just trying to cope with all the crazy-ass people around us. And it was literally 13 degrees. I guarantee you got frostbite. But yeah, check that out if you want to laugh or just see what it was like. Pretty funny. Other than that, I don't want to sound repetitive. Just got to see how Duke looks these next 2 games that they're favored to win, and then gear up for Miami. And even if they look terrible in these 2 games but still somehow win, they can still come out against Miami and play unbelievable. But it is something to be a little worried about. It's still a long season and everything, but have a road game and then a home game against Wake and then a road game against Miami and then some tough games after that. You know, Virginia's coming up. Like I said, UNC in a month. You can start saying it's a long season, blah, 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 but the tough games, they're coming way faster than people are thinking. And started out with this deep-ass bench and this great team and this energetic squad, meshing together, winning these tough games, and then all of a sudden you drop an easy one, get beat on another one. And no game's easy, but a lot easier than the games that they've already played, that they've grinded out, like looking like a veteran team. So, you know, in 2015, they had that mid-season terrible slump, and they got over it, which the reason why they got over it is because they started gelling together on the defensive end. So we're going to have to see if this team can do the same. I'm confident that they can, but they have a lot of other things to overcome too. I mean, they don't have Tyus Jones running the point like a veteran point guard. And, I mean, there's no Justice Winslow on this team either. There's no Quinn Cook on this team. But you can see relations towards, you've seen flashes of Duval. You know what Grayson Allen can be. You've seen how great Wendell Carter is. You've seen, I mean, Marvin Bagley, I'm not going to compare him to anybody. You've seen Marvin Bagley is living up way past the hype that was some of the biggest hype I've ever seen. So what can we get out of Alex O'Connell if he gets a chance? Like, I was thinking, if he comes in that State game and he throws up 3 threes and 2 of them go in 4 minutes of play, that's a spark that can change the outcome of the game. That could have, fired up the rest of the team. A lot could have happened if he just would have got his chance. So I'm a little unclear on that. I don't really understand it, and I'm not on the coaching staff, so I guess I'm not meant to understand it, but I could see a lot of fans weren't too happy about that, and a lot of fans weren't too happy with the way the effort looked on the court. So we're just going to have to keep monitoring it and keep being the usual Duke fans that we are and see what happens. But I think I covered everything. Another upset, another storm the court. 2 more games coming this week. Big Florida game after that. UNC in a month. We went to the State game, had a great time. Video on YouTube. This will be uploaded, and we'll just keep trying to progress forward. Thanks to everybody who said what's up, and deals with my shit on Twitter and on this podcast and wherever else you see me. Shout out to all of you. Let's just hope they turn this thing around. It's not a sunken ship or anything. It's just teeter-tottering a little bit, and they need that balance. So I think they'll be good. They got the GOAT. They got Marvin Bagley. They got the GOAT, Grayson Allen. They got a good team. They got some raw talent. They got some big men. Happy January 8th. I'll be back. Duke gang, we out until whenever the fuck I come back. So have a good week. I'm out.